Hello everyone watching at home, welcome to Adelaide Eternal's coverage of the AE Vintage Challenge from February 2019. We are in round 3. I am Sarven McLinton. In the booth with me is Beckett Wolfe.
It's a g'day guys to you.
So we have in the feature match area, me on the left. I am on 4-colour Planeswalker control. And on the right we have Steve Lowe, still on Jeskai Lavinia control.
Steamroll Lowe Smith.
Absolutely
steamrolling his last 2 matches.
He has Steve rolled his way all the way through since round 1, and we thought, why not keep him on camera? Because Lavinia is sweet, and everyone wants to see that tech. Let's check out his deck. This is his deck. It has Lavinia in it. That's the end. No, please go and check round 1 and round 2. The round 1 and round 2 coverage.
Well, if you check round 2, we'll just say go check round 1.
Oh yeah, that's
so
true.
You can just skip that by just checking round 1, but then you should watch round 2, and if you've watched it, watch it again.
Yeah, why not? Because hopefully I can be the barrier in the path of Steve Roll Low, because I am on a deck that hopefully will chew up a smaller deck. This is a 4-colour Planeswalker control deck. This is all about just greed. You know, as you can see, I'm running Painful Truths because I'm greedy.
It is greedy.
It is pretty greedy, isn't it? Now, life means literally nothing in this format, right? And Painful Truths is just a 3-mana version of Ancestral Recall that's sorcery speed. But the difference is that you can't Pyroblast it. So I'm running stuff like this to just pull ahead on cards, and when it comes to actually finishing the game, I can finish it with the traditional threats like Monastery Mentor, but maximum greed, I'm running a bunch of Planeswalkers. I got Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Dak Faden, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Oh, and Yawgmoth's Will, one of my favourite cards of all time.
Yeah, look, when you want to win, why not win more and just be going, well, Monastery Mentor, and how about Yawgmoth's Will back all of my Moxen and my Black
Seems like
Lotus?
A good matchup for you.
Yeah, this looks pretty good. Now, the way that I can lose it, though, is Lavinia on turn 1. It's going to be pretty bad for me. So let's see how it actually pans out. I don't know exactly the result of this match. Wait a second. I do, because I'm in it. So you don't know the result of the match.
I don't know the result, but I do know that one of our players is in the Hall of Heroes. As you can see there, Sarven, Karate, Black Belt. He's going to be absolutely sensational this game, I believe. And yes, I thought of that joke 2 days ago after hearing it on the radio.
Nice.
And he's got some wins, including in Vintage. So we're looking forward to see you in action once again, man.
Oh, speaking of action, let's go down to the match. This is us rolling some dice. I get a 9. And Steve, this dice roll will be really critical based on Lavinia. Is not a 9. Okay. So I would say, in the abstract, being on the play, I'm favoured, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that Steve has the ability to get some gotcha factor with Lavinia because you don't have experience playing against it.
No, for sure.
And also, like, it's a new card, and it could just be like way too good for Vintage. And I also think that Young Pyromancer is quite good at pressuring Planeswalkers, which you have a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I think you're probably like a better deck just because you're greedier.
Yeah, max greed. Well, we'll see if the greed pays off or not. Here's my hand. It's got
a good hand.
A-Call, Pyroblast, no red source, but it's just a single basic island alongside the Mox Pearl.
So it is this powerful hand, but it's maybe a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
I find that is
it could get misstepped. If my A-Call gets misstepped, it's really painful. So
that's the case with a lot of Vintage hands, though. You know.
True. So if you were in my position, you've got Pearl, which is not relevant, and Basic Island.
I would
no
wait.
Other land.
I would wait.
You'd wait on the A-Call.
I'd wait on the A-Call until I can hit red source for Pyroblast.
So here's another question. Your opponent's mulled to 6. Do you still wait on the A-Call? So the chance of them having...
I think I'll wait less time, but I still wait.
Yeah. So do I also have a Preordain in the hand?
Don't think so. If you have a Preordain in hand,
then
it's just very good.
That's very good. You just snap off that Preordain turn 1 and just go, let's find the second land. Oh, I got a Volk. Yep, all good. So, yeah, there's Pyroblast, and I think it's Painful Truths on the left. There is Preordain in there.
Oh, if there's
There's no
preordain in
question.
there,
It's just like land preordain,
my
right?
hand is like really good.
Okay. Land preordain, find red source. Okay, got red source. A-call, excellent.
Yeah, or land preordain, misstep, shore, untap, A-call.
Yeah. All of these options seem pretty decent. So I believe here, if Steve is going down any lower than 6, has he presented? I just missed that. But if he's going down any lower, it's kind of going to be a steamroll. The steamroll's going to flip over to the other side, isn't it?
I thought it was pronounced Steve Roll.
Yeah, I think Steve roll. I think Rick roll is the other way to pronounce it.
Well, if Steve's getting Steve rolled, then maybe it's no longer a Steve roll.
So yeah, this is a 5, I believe. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
It's
4,
vintage
5,
though, baby. Anything can happen.
True. I mean, it's a Mox hand with a Force of Will and a Preordain.
I think I saw a pond there as well.
Yeah, nice. Well, now actually being able to see what's going on is a big difference. Now your opponent's on 5. What do you do? Do you run out the A-call or not?
Guess you are.
I do. So yeah, there's a force off the ponder.
Yeah.
So this my logic here was you are on a mull to 5. Yeah, so there's the rest of the hand. You're on a mull to 5. The chance of having misstep is really low, but if you have force, I basically discard 2 cards and you're on a mull to 3. That's my plan. So
I like it. The more they mull, the more you want to A-call earlier because they're less likely to have misstep, and if they do have force, I think it's like a him to Turak anyway, and him to Turak when they're on 5 is
3, then effectively is
it's
pretty
really
huge.
good.
Yeah, so that was my logic there. In the way that if you force this, it's great. Draw Stony Silence, the one off Stony Silence in the main.
Do you think it does anything right now? I don't think so.
So now I get to preordain and try and find that other land. So there's Balance Wasteland. Note that Steve led on Basic Island. Imagine how quickly I would snap off a Wasteland there when your opponent's on a mull to essentially 3 off the Force of Will. And
do you just want to hit a land drop here, though?
Yeah, might well be. Now, so what do you do? Do you keep the Balance? Do you keep the 4 at the waste? Balance. Do you keep both? Or do you keep none?
Balance is like
4 options here.
Balance is a super powerful card.
Mm-hmm. It's not very good when your opponent's on the mull.
But yeah, I would bottom both.
Because
I think you can do better than Wasteland. I think you'll find Wasteland's really awkward.
Not only does current me agree with you, but past me agrees with you. And yes,
and current me agrees with me.
Nice.
We don't know what past me thought, but it's a 3 out of 4 at least.
Yeah. So I end up scrying both the bottom, finding Flooded Strand, which now turns on my Pyroblast. And if Steve plays a Mox like this, I'm very tempted to play Stony Silence, even though it turns off. Oh. And now I'm very tempted to play Stony Silence next turn with a Pyroblast up. So here's Young Pyromancer. Note that there is a non-bow with Young Pyromancer and Pyroblast when they're on the opposite sides of the field. Pyroblast does nothing to a Young Pyromancer, or his pyromantic skills are too good. He's
already pyroed up.
Yeah, that's it. It's one swole pyro bro. Pyro. So here, let's see where this goes. So do you want to snap off a cheeky little Stony Silence for a one-sided Stone Rain? You know, it's Stone Rain's one of your opponent's lands essentially, because you're going down on mana sources, but they're going down on 2 mana sources. My
instinct is yes, just because of basic maths.
Yeah.
However, he does have the threat on the table.
Exactly.
And you it's like wastelanding yourself just to wasteland them twice. And you doing that is arguably bad if they have the threat because you're slowing the game down. So now their threat becomes better. Especially if you had something there, something like Brainstorm or some interaction to make another 1/1. Mm-hmm. It gets a bit awkward.
Yep, for sure.
But you've done it. I don't think it's incorrect to do it. I think it's just identifying, can I deal with this Pyromancer? You essentially make the Pyromancer a lot better, but you make the rest of his hand a lot worse. Yeah. So it's just making that decision. And I think if you're yep, I can deal with this Pyromancer, then you're good. That's a decent hand.
Interestingly, it's nice to see that I was actually doing something with the Stony Silence. It shut off the bolt. I didn't, because I'm seeing this for the first time, and I didn't know it was actually shutting off a bolt in hand. And
bolt would have been really good there, just to bolt that turn.
The amount of tempo it changes. Is
great.
Note here that I didn't crack the fetch land because I was hoping to draw another red source for the Pyro, not having to actually crack the land for the Pyro because then I don't have a white source. So that's why. And I've got Dak Faden in hand, but I don't want to crack. I don't want to play Dak Faden here and get it countered when I could have a Pyroblast up. So, taking some life, taking some medicine here. Just eat your medicine, lose some life, and then eventually do something. The longer you wait, the better when you get a Dak Faden and Pyroblast to back it up. Because once the Dak Faden lands, it draws all the attacks, which is nice. So here's Snapcaster Mage at end of turn. So this is end of Steve's turn, Snapcaster with the A-Call in the bin. But obviously Steve has Mental Misstep. Oh, this is not end of turn, it's in combat, sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty nice way. So
yeah.
obviously
but you don't cast the A-Call because you don't want to give him a Mental Misstep target.
Merchant Scroll.
Yeah, so like the A-Call has flashback until the end of the turn. You don't say before blocks cast A-Call.
Well, you do it here because he could just search Mental Misstep, right? If you let Merchant Scroll resolve.
Correct.
He could search Mental Misstep, which would be a pretty good way of dealing with it.
Yeah, that's right.
And now he just gets to search A-Call or something.
Yeah, for those of you who use Snapcaster Mage for blocks, make sure you don't cast the spell. Like a lot of time people go, someone hymns you and the last card in hand is Snappy, so you flash in the snap and you target Brainstorm and then they snap the Brainstorm off and you're like, no, let the hymn resolve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then cast Brainstorm.
And your opponents do it all the time. You just target Helix and then they're like waiting for you. And I'm like, you've got priority, mate. Go ahead.
It.
They're like, well, what are you targeting? And I'm like, Helix?
You can see the work that Stony Silence is actually doing here because the mana-intensive play of, here's my hand, double Pyroblast, Dak Faden, Flusterstorm.
Painful Truths?
Something like that, maybe.
It was very dark. That doesn't mean it's black,
maybe
but it was very dark. Maybe it's just shadowy.
Yeah. Shadow of Doubt?
To be honest, it looked like Death Shadow.
I think we have a Shadow of Doubt about what the actual card is. So here I snap off the Pyroblast on A-Call because it's obvious. But even if there was a Preordain, I'd still snap off the Pyro on it because I don't want to have two Pyros in hand and not more than one Pyroblasting land, not more than one Volcanic Island. So here Dak Faden finally resolves. Finally, I get a window to cast it safely, I believe. Because, if your opponent has Force of Will blue card, that's great. You're like, you have no cards in hand now. But here's the actual threat. So it's going to just start drawing me into gas and away from not gas.
Yeah, I really like your position here. You're also able to discard all those artifacts which you might draw, which would be dead to a Stony Silence. And if you're discarding, if I'm Steve and I see you discarding Flusterstorm...
Discard business. Discard actual spells, play land. Wow, you didn't discard the land off the deck? That should be a scary thought. So here's Lavinia Azorius Renegade coming on out.
It's pretty good, but
it's a good card.
To be honest, Lavinia's a little bit early.
When you're ahead, yeah.
Because the lands is a really relevant text of hers.
Yeah.
And once you can hit like five lands...
Early game when you're at parity or ahead is great.
Yeah.
Mid to late game here when you're behind is actively bad, probably, right? But it's a hate there. It's it pressures Dak Faden.
It does pressure.
One comment that we should make before is note that the 2 Moxen on one side and the 1 Moxen and Stony Silence are lined up on the other side. It is actually a 2 for 2. That's one thing we were saying. It's not really a 2 for 1 where you kind of go, I'm getting rid of 2 of your Moxen but 1 of mine. It's actually a 2 for 2, so it's kind of at parity there.
It is, although at the time that you cast it, I think, like, if it's just stuck in your hand, then it's a 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Against you, because you've now got a card that you're not casting in hand that doesn't do anything in your hand, so you might as well put it into play and have it do something in the field.
Here we go. Painful Truths. Black, white, blue. Get 3 cards. Have a Pyroblast up. Feels good. This is... a lot of the time people look at Painful Truths in my list and they're like, it's not modern, bro. This isn't even playable in modern.
And you can even draw 4 off it if there's
if they've got a Thalia out it does happen once in a while, but only if you're already winning. If you're playing 4 mana for a Painful Truths against shops, you're winning already. So, so here is a draw 3 and then Dak up by 2, discard Fragmentize and Mox, and have a Wasteland.
Dak's super relevant here.
Dak's just doing so much work.
I think this is game over.
Yeah, look, I've got a Pyroblast in hand for Lavinia, but I don't even snap it off, right? Like, what's even the point? Just keep the Pyroblast for when they cast a Preordain.
Oh, and dig through time.
Yeah, dig, balance, Library of Alexandria, Pyroblast. Seems like a pretty decent hand.
What's that card in the far left of your hand? It's very dark.
It is.
The Shadow of Doubt.
The Shadow of Doubt. So Lavinia, they're just going aggro on Dak. There's an argument to just attacking my life total because I'm on 11, but Dak is a really, really big threat. Two every turn, so it's basically just losing one loyalty per turn. It's pretty hard to kill it, So here is the choice of, being so far ahead. What do you discard? Do you discard Library of Alexandria just because you're like, I'm already this far ahead? I don't need to just keep drawing cards. I just need to close the actual game. Sometimes the logic is, well, if you keep drawing cards, you close the game via that method anyway. Here, I just want to find another.
It's easy from our position because we can look at the list, so we know what Steve's deck's capable of. But if you're playing in the actual game, closing it is something like quite relevant because you don't know if they're running a combo, especially in Vintage. You don't know if they're running a combo or they're running some card you can't deal with. So you just want to find threats. For
sure. Here's Tribal Planeswalkers. So I've got Jace Friend's Prodigy out. Note that Dak Faden discarded Balance because I'm already ahead, and Balance is good when you're behind. So this is an upkeep Pyroblast Lavinia. Just in case they draw Mental Misstep or something, right?
And you've still got Dig.
I've got Dig ready to go. So, note that the Dig can't actually be cast whilst Lavinia was out. That's why the Dig was sitting in hand for a long time.
And that's probably why the Pyroblast happened.
And the Pyroblast. So, the Dig was in hand because it didn't need to be cast as well. I could have Pyroblast and dug any time, but if you only do it when you got a reason, right? You don't actually need to dig yet until you know what you're actually trying to fight against.
It's a really, really good point. I find that, especially in Legacy, but we're both on Grixis controls with Brainstorms and Ponders. It's like, well, if you hit your land drop and your hand's good, why? What are you digging for? Especially turn one, you don't even know what you're playing against. Are you digging for Fatal Pushes? Are you digging for Force of Wills? Are you digging for land drops? What, and I think I probably scooped to Dig Through Time.
Yeah, well, this is a Lightning Bolt on your JVP in response Dig Through Time, and the Dig Through Time is probably going to find a Mental Misstep, and if it's not going to find a Mental Misstep and Jace dies, you're still far behind.
If it finds Mental Misstep, I scoop. If it doesn't find Mental Misstep, I probably still scoop, but not necessarily.
Because for reference, for those that haven't had this before, if that bolt does not resolve, untapping and having JVP to flashback a Painful Truths and then Dak. Dig. Well, it's actually better to just flashback Painful Truths, then Dak, and you actually see a similar amount of cards, but actually just get more card volume.
You're guaranteed to find something good here. So
exactly.
if it's not Mental Misstep, then it's some other card that's better than or as good, like Time Walk there.
Yeah, there's a Time Walk and there's a Force of Will there. And actually, I think I remember this. I think there was no other blue card, so I could choose to take Force of Will and Time Walk, but that means I have to pitch the Time Walk to Force of Will to counter this, and that felt very bad. So instead, I'd rather keep Time Walk and both in my hand or in the deck, not use the Force of Will, just draw Yawgmoth's Will, and Yawgmoth's Will itself acts as a Jace Friend's Prodigy unflipped.
I think Force there is actually quite a good draw. I know we were just saying you don't have any other blue cards, but after you Yorks and after you Dak, you're most likely going to have a blue card. And you're so far ahead, you're happy to lose a bit of card advantage just to guarantee victory here. So Force off the top was really good. Now you just got to sweep Yawgmoth's Will. Although you can't Yorg's Painful because you don't have black-blacks.
Yeah, there's no black-black. And normally Yorg's is really, really good because your Moxen or your Black Lotus plays some stuff. But keep in mind the Stony Silence is actually cutting that line off. And so what I'm doing is, this was the dark card that you
Demonic Tutor?
It's Demonic Tutor. And
you've only got one Underground Sea. Is that
one Underground Sea? Oh, it's very rarely because you also have Underground Sea, Jet, Black Lotus. So I only have 3 black cards in the deck, right? DT, Yawgmoth's Will, and Painful Truths. And of all of them, Yawgmoth's Will is only a late game card, and Painful Truths is an early game card, and DT is an early game card. So you only have 2 black sources you need to find.
Well, a DT's an all-game card, I'd say.
Yeah, two black spells to find, I mean. Right. So what I've done here instead is just try to pull so far ahead that when I need to use the Yawgmoth's Will, it'll be great. But for now, I just don't need to use it. I just keep it in hand and I just DT cast a
Well, you got a lot of
treasure
reactive
cruise.
spells in hand, so
Yeah.
in bin. So Yawgmothing what? Basically, you'd Yawgmoths to get Wasteland and Jace.
Yeah, so the plan is to only use the Yawgmoth's Will when I go, okay, you cast a Jace the Mind Sculptor, Jace Friend's Prodigy, or you cast some kind of threat, and I go, Yawgmoth's Will, Pyroblast a threat, Wasteland your one land, cast a DT for something, like that kind of really, really max value type play. And the other reason I want to Yawgmoth's Will later is because I've got Stony Silence out, I'm doing it when I have as many mana sources out first, like just lands. So I'm just building up lands to actually do that.
You haven't even used DAC yet, have you?
No, so I libraried here because I'm on 7, now I DAC, and the hand just becomes gasoline, because anything I'm discarding now is going to be replayed by Yawgmoth's Will later anyway, so that's why it's not too much of an issue.
Yep. I think this is Scooptown City.
Yeah, like when your opponent is this far behind, vintage decks are often built with, say, 1 card or 2 cards that, say, combo out or get you back from behind, like a Toxic Deluge or a Balance or something. And I don't believe that's in... Yeah, combo.
Yeah, it's not.
But this should be the nail in the coffin, Time Walk. So this is the Desperation Gush. So float 1 mana, try and find a Flusterstorm.
But even if you fluster here, then what?
Yeah.
You
don't... That's it.
Yeah.
Steve recognises that. So I just show, I'm like, I got double force, double blue cards, and I also have Yawgmoth's Will and was planning to untap and play Jason Mind Sculptor. So it's pretty much the way that you expect a game like this to go when I'm on the play, where you just got powerful cards, going to leverage the powerful cards, go long, and then just grind out. Whereas now it switches over to Steve on the play, and Steve on the play.
So he's a bit more aggro than you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're both playing control, but his threats are creatures, which generate creatures to go wide,
and his removal are
to threaten life total. Exactly,
threaten life total
exactly
when needed.
So Steve's threats are creatures that go wide, that deal damage, and your threats are cards that create more card advantage and snowball that card advantage to the point that exactly what happened where. Yeah, his life total is 16, but really, there's no coming back from it.
Exactly, and Painful Truths is like the iconic card, right, of this kind of deck, where you go, if I'm casting Painful Truths, then it's probably the case that I am winning, because my life total doesn't matter, and I've got all the colours of mana I need at my disposal, and I'm on 3 or more mana sources. That's the indicator, right? Like your opponent goes, Painful Truths, I'm no longer the beatdown. Got it. Like you're the aggro deck, but you are not winning.
So going to sideboards, Steve Lowe's definitely going to bring in Pyroblast. I'd say he's going to bring in Jace.
Yep.
He might be tempted to bring in Fragmentize, but that would be very wrong, I think, because...
Yeah, because my Stony Silence gets out of there real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is there because I don't want to lose to Paradoxical Outcome.
Yeah. Lightning Bolt, yeah. Normally, you might not put in Lightning Bolt, but... Just because you got so many Planeswalkers.
It answers Jace Friend's Prodigy and it kills, like, paired up with 1 attack, so they attack the DAC and then they bolt it. That's perfectly fine.
Or you can just being on the play and trying to race to the face. Pithing Needle, similar to Bolt in the sense that normally I would say every day no, but you do have a lot of Planeswalkers, so like, it's a cheap, easy way to deal with a big threat on the board.
One thing to note here is, in my build of the deck, I specifically have a large number of Planeswalkers, all with different names. And when your opponent goes, I saw Jace that game, they come in guns blazing and they put out a Pithing Needle naming Jace, and then you play Teferi, and they're like, what is this? Here we go. So this is my side out. I side out Mindbreak Trap, Stony Silence, Mental Misstep. Not Mental Misstep. And I bring in Swords to Plowshares and Pyroblast. So I've taken Teferi out. There's a very specific reason for me taking Teferi out here. 1, it's a Pyroblast target. It just is unnecessary to put your shields down. But 2, and probably the most important one is, I very, very rarely ever cast Teferi without a Mox or a Black Lotus. And Lavinia stops me from being able to cast a 5-mana Planeswalker.
I'll pay that.
So he brings out Mana Drain and a Misstep, I think.
I feel like Misstep's really good in this matchup.
You keep it in. So he's got another Bolt, Jace, and a Pyroblast. over those, I would say that
I would take out the Fragmentize.
the Fragmentize are easy remove. But see how he got punished by the Stony Silence in that game? So maybe he's feeling that punishment and gone, okay, I think I need to bring in Fragmentize. But in reality, my Stony Silence couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Absolutely.
Like, this,
It
the
was
way
okay. It probably felt
it was
good,
a 2
but
for 2.
It's like you're running Moxes. It's not a good card.
Interestingly, the Fragmentize play is exactly what I want my opponents to do, because my deck is really, really versatile. Like, it can pivot into Planeswalker control. You can tempo them out with a Mentor. You can combo out with a Yawgmoth's Will. Like, there's so many different angles.
And I'd also say, if you're starting out Mana Drain against Sarv, why is Mana Drain even in your deck? I don't think Mana Drain's great here, but I think that's just because Mana Drain's not good in Vintage right now. And if there's any deck that Mana Drain's going to be good against, it's your list. So just don't play it in 75 if you're starting it out against this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I guess you expect a lot of Pyroblast, but like, come on, really.
So yeah, he should take out Fragmentize and he should take out one basic island.
I think he should take out Frag. He could take out a DAC, and he could take out basic island.
Yeah. I snap mulled there. But Steve is on a keep and he's on the play, and I believe I commented to him and I was like, okay, yep, you're on the play. That means you have a Lavinia. Like, I'm going, yep, that means you're probably going to go turn 1 Lavinia. How do I keep a hand that doesn't lose to turn 1 Lavinia? So I have to mull.
I don't think the answer is like starting out Moxes. I think that's not where you want to be, because the same logic could apply to like Chalice of the Void. You know, but I think you want to keep in your power levels. You don't really want to side out the Moxes.
Yeah, when I'm against many blue mirrors, I often side out one basic island because you just want more gas and the games go long. But I can't do that here. You just can't. It's really, really risky. So my hand is a Mox Sapphire hand, and look at this. My body is ready to be punished by the Lavinia. You can't play Moxen. So I believe I remember kind of crossing my fingers here because I couldn't go to 5. It just wouldn't be a viable option when my opponent's on 7. And I dodge a bullet.
Relief, yeah.
I absolutely dodge a bullet. I'm like, okay, this Mox Sapphire here needs to, because I scryed to the bottom as well. I need to find a land. I need to dodge Lavinia, and
you've got Misstep though, so you can dodge Misstep.
Yeah, I can dodge Misstep, and I have Brainstorm, and I'd rather prefer Preordain, not Brainstorm. Brainstorm's really bad in this kind of situation because if you don't hit your fetch land, you're locked, but if you hit Preordain, so good. So very good. Now, I don't Brainstorm here, obviously, because of that specific factor. Sure, if I hit a land, it's fantastic, but if I don't hit a land, it's very bad. So I should wait as long as possible.
I think people assume, obviously hitting the land drops is good, there's no doubt about it, but people assume you have to hit your land drops. And yes, you do want to hit your land drops, but what's more important is sculpting like a good hand going forward. So,
and this is a hard decision for me because that Misstep was earmarked to protect my Brainstorm. And if I use it here to stop his Brainstorm, then I can't protect my Brainstorm. So the decision I made here was, okay, I'm going to do this because
I really don't
you
like
have a fetch.
That. Because now you can't fetch what you Brainstorm. So yes, you get to resolve your Brainstorm, but now your Brainstorm's really, really, really bad.
And your opponent hasn't played a land.
A turn 2 Brainstorm is fine. It's not ideal. It's fine if you've got an active fetch. But a turn 2 Brainstorm with no active fetch is like god awful. And I think you're better off just saying sure. Yeah,
and consider that if you keep your mana open and you pass the turn, I didn't play a land on turn 1.
You want to flush the Storm of Preordain.
Obviously trying to Preordain. Like, I'm going to try and find something.
Absolutely.
So my hand is great, except for that Gush. My remaining 4 cards are great, but it's all about that Brainstorm. If that Brainstorm can just find me a land, then my hand gets switched on. And the thing is, if I snap that off early and I didn't find it in the top 3, it's bad. But here, if I go to my turn, draw another card, hopefully it just gives me more outs. If my opponent plays a creature, I can't do that. I just have to start digging and start doing stuff. But I'm not in a rush right now at the time.
And in a format with Moxen, you're able to sometimes miss land drops.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the early turns, even turn 1.
I drew Black Lotus.
Because, there's another point, you can just be in this position. The game becomes very, very different, because it's not, as good as Lotus is, it's not a consistent source of mana.
Mm-hmm.
So you are, at risk to something like a Force of Will. But
Now, if you had a Force of Will, do you force the Lotus set? Because I have not played any lands. Because I
depends
think
how
I
greedy
do.
you are.
I think I force the Lotus.
Depends how greedy you are.
Because imagine it being Mentor, Preordain, or something like that. So, look at this. So, I've played Lotus. I cast Brainstorm. I don't find the land.
Well, you hit Wasteland, but it's not a fetch land.
But I don't
it's
find
not
the
a
fetch
good
land.
land.
Yeah. So, my plan here, of the reason why I'm brainstorming here, is my other card in hand is Demonic Tutor. So, I'm going to use the Demonic Tutor as a shuffle effect. So, if my brainstorm here found fetch land, I wouldn't do it. I'd just play the fetch land and I'd be able to shuffle away some cards and then I'd Demonic Tutor another turn if I need to. But here, because I'm desperate for that fetch land, I have to put away business that's not good, like Gush. Gush is just not going to be played, right?
And keep in mind, because it's Brainstorm, Sav knows he's not going to find the fetch land in the next 2 draws anyway. Yeah. So it feels kind of bad, but...
I put away Wasteland because Wasteland's a card for when you're ahead, not behind. And I put away Pyroblast because I'm not going to be able to cast a Pyroblast because I need to find, say, a white source or something here. So here's a Demonic Tutor. And remember that whole... You force the thing that they find. Here, I think I'm almost certain... He should be almost certain that I'm finding a land here. Yeah. So this is a great Flusterstorm target. Imagine if the Flusterstorm was still in the hand, I'd be punished in every way.
Steve would be in the exact same position as well with the Brainstorm.
Yeah.
He's seen 2 extra cards that he's not going to be able to cast this turn. And he's only digging 1 card.
Yes.
Because he would have seen the top card anyway from his draw step. So it's 2 cards, I guess. He sees 2 cards of which he sees 3 cards of which he would have been able to see one of them anyway. So it's not really that much to the Brainstorm that he cast on turn 2.
So I've got 1 black floating here and I found Tundra and cast Time Walk.
Just a bit of mana efficiency.
Yeah.
Getting ahead, Steve's Brainstorm, so...
That's it. If none of these things got countered, it means my Time Walk is going to resolve. Mm-hmm. And all I want to do here is untap and just play another land and have Gush open.
Well, the thing is, because he fought over that Brainstorm, you can assume Steve's next turn is going to be quite good.
Yes.
Because he's got a great hand now. Again, I don't think the Brainstorm is correct, because it means the next turns are really bad, but you have to assume that Steve's next turn is good, and the turns after that aren't good.
Yeah. For sure. Now, the other advantage of me doing this, the reason I was doing it is because it leaves me with untapped mana so that I can cast Snapcaster Mage on Mental Misstep, which wouldn't be open to me if I didn't cast a Time Walk. So the Time Walk was not an exciting play, but it served to untap mana and draw me an extra card.
Yeah,
and
I think it was
the
good.
Opening would be if I drew a land, then it would be amazing because I have Gush available for the following turns, and it's very, very strong. So here we get to see there is nothing. So that Brainstorm without the fetch land available after the Flusterstorm actually locked him off any threats. So this means that his hand is reactive and has a whole bunch of counterspells in it. And they're obviously counterspells that couldn't interact with my last turn's play. So there's no Force of Will or something like that. They're like Mana Drain, those kind of cards.
So Steve sort of lost his advantage here because he had the advantage in terms of mana, which gives him the ability to be proactive. But he's lost that because he's lost his turn 3.
What do you do here? Your opponent Gataxian probes you. You have Snapcaster Mage in hand and Misstep in the bin, and your hand is not great.
I don't
do
mind.
You defend it and show it's not great?
I don't mind playing Snap Misstep here because you get a threat out. You can assume he's not going to blow you out with some counterspell anyway, and you still got Force. I like Misstep here, yeah.
Yeah, I do it.
Plus, he doesn't have it. There's no threat that Steve's going to cast that you're scared of.
The temptation, though, is to hold the Snap to Brainstorm or to hold the Snap to cast Time Walk at a later point.
But hurting Steve...
Yeah.
Steve's draws is good here because Steve wants to draw into gas.
There's another reason that I do it here, and that is... when your opponent is on a Xerox deck and they cast Probe as the first spell of their turn and they didn't do anything the previous turn, it means they don't have Young Pyro, they don't have Mentor, they don't have anything to trigger the thing. So if they cast that and drew a card, they could be drawing into the thing, which is a lot harder to answer. So that's my logic there. So that was just a snap off a Lightning Bolt just to kill the threat because it keeps us both at parity. And Steve probably wants the game to go a little bit longer until he can actually find his own threat. And when your opponent fetches here, that's worrying, right? That's scary. But like they just did a probe, they just removed my thing. Wait, what do they need 3 mana for? And I'm really worried about something like Dak Faden here, because I don't have an answer to Dak Faden aside from using the Force, which means I have to pitch Gush. But the problem is, the moment he fetched Basic Island, I'm like, relief. It's fine. It's going to be a creature, and I can swords it.
Maybe Mentor.
Yeah,
it's interesting that
in hand.
he did. Yeah, exactly. He got swords, but also
But it's Treasure Cruise. Treasure Cruise with 1 mana up. Here's a question: do you pitch Gush with Force to counter Treasure Cruise here?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I do too.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because
and I do.
Your
Past me agrees.
Your Gush isn't great. You don't have any threats. You've only got 1 land.
Yeah.
And it's the same logic as last time. We know Steve doesn't have threats.
Mm-hmm.
So
he used he used Force of Will there, right?
He must. Well, yeah, he drew.
Yeah, but he pitched Time Walk to the Force of Will. So our forces. My Gush traded with Time Walk. My Force traded with Force, but his Treasure Cruise resolves. So now he got to draw the cards, and now he's finally found Lavinia. So he's got a threat. It's not a huge threat, and keep in mind that I do have Swords of Plowshares in hand, and I've got 2 mana up. I go to upkeep my upkeep. I can't. Maybe I don't, because playing around Flusterstorm. I think I was making a decision to play around Flusterstorm there or not, because I think it would have been better for me to play around Flusterstorm. Oh, I didn't need to because I had Mental Misstep in hand. Yeah. So if I didn't have Mental Misstep in hand, I would have just gone to my upkeep and did the Swords of Plowshares so that Flusterstorm doesn't counter it and I can pay 2. Young Pyromancer. Here's my 4th mana source.
Needed that to be a fetch land.
Yeah, it needed to be a fetch.
Fire off the Notion Thief.
Yep. So this is the mana problem we were talking about before, but it is literally one of the corner cases. I just happened to get one of these ones which was a single Mock Sapphire hand, and I didn't find any lands with my Brainstorm. But
Jace is all right here.
I'd cast Force.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty punishing. I was like, I looked at it and I'm like,
Jace.
Probably have hard cast Force.
Jace was good there, although not ideal, because really any spell then puts.
Well, you just Fate Seal him though. It's really good. You just keep Fate Sealing, and that balances out the Young Pyro. So yeah, I was Jacing there and just hoping that there was no Force and it was a hard cast, and it was pretty bad for me. So now we've got a team out, and remember, I can't cast. Thankfully, I tried the Jace that turn, because this turn I wouldn't be able to cast it, right? Because the Jace can't be cast.
Yeah,
in base
very
of Lavinia.
true.
So this is the old kill Lavinia to keep the clock down. So now I'm on a 4-turn clock with that Young Pyromancer, and I just need to draw something. Pretty much.
Fetch land there switches on Notion Thief.
Yep.
And you've got a Misstep up as well.
Misstep. So the Misstep is there for a Lightning Bolt that removes the Notion Thief. So I've got a way to protect the Notion Thief.
Do you throw Notion Thief in front of?
No, definitely not. 100% not. I wanted to get greedy. I'll do that on the last turn of the game, but I wanted to get greedy and cast a Preordain here. Because he's got Young Pyro, he has so many sorcery speed draw spells that he wants to actively cast in his turn. So what this meant was he didn't have one, because he went to the end of his turn. So that means that I just have to cast it.
Right.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you want to be greedy in terms
Yes.
of not blocking this turn.
Not blocking.
To make him go second main phase Preordain. But if he's not going second main phase Preordain, he just doesn't have it.
It just doesn't have
which
it.
means
So
you should
I'm
just
not going
cast
to
it.
draw any cards off
Yeah.
it, is what I'm saying. So now I cast it. So I miss 2 damage. I lose 2 damage. And here's a Lightning Bolt. And here's a Mental Misstep. So Mental Misstep.
Yeah, can't play around Flusterstorm anyway, so might as well
Yep.
pay mana.
That's it. So now it's in top deck mode. So we're basically both in top deck mode, but he's got more threats than me.
Yeah. And
I draw Preordain.
Preordain's pretty good.
Preordain's a
one there.
huge top deck. So good. But I believe my cards I look at are Mental Misstep and something else.
Another
And
Preordain,
I put
I
away
think.
the Mental Misstep.
Treasure Cruise.
Yeah. So it was Treasure Cruise Misstep. So Misstep goes away. Draw Treasure Cruise. But remember, my life total was 5. So, I've got to like find something that actually, I've got to find Swords to Plowshares here for the Young Pyromancer, and then I'm still getting beat down by 2 1/1 tokens. One of them has to trade with the Notion Thief, and then I can still die to the 1/1 tokens. So like, I'm not in a commanding position. I need to find balance. Balance is a pretty huge draw if I can find it.
How many electrolyzers are you running?
I wish I was running Electrolyze. I'd be so good right now. It'd be like the exact card I want. I want sudden demise or whatever it is, where I just go, name red. All red creatures take 1 damage.
So we've got a Force of Will. I'm going to say Island Swords, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. So it's probably something red, because I'm looking like I'm going to tap that ruby. So now I'm lining up, and we were chatting about it, and we're like, oh, your clocks are really good. My Notion Thief is not going to trade with anything. My Notion Thief is not going to get anything now because it's known information. My opponent's not going to play into it. So I think it's Dak. I think that's.
Oh, Dak's not bad because you can get his hand.
No, it's not. Painful Truths. That's all right. Yep. So I said Painful Truths, and I was saying like, yeah, it was. I don't believe I can actually cast it for 2 there, right? Based on the lands that I had untapped, because one of them has to be red.
It has to be black as well.
Yeah. So it's black, blue, red. Don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Your logic was you can go like Tundra can tap for blue, Underground Sea can tap for blue.
Yeah, like these 2 tap for blue. Like this is how I can play it. So don't worry. This does not determine the game. You don't have to worry about that. You know, I am on essentially 2 life, and the card draw and Force of Will in my hand with no blue source is pretty bad. No other blue card. I think it's 2 lands, right? 2 lands and a Force of Will. And here's Jace, and as you can see, balance. I got balance.
You can't force either, even if you have blue, because you run 1 life.
Yep, that's all right. Technically on 0 life on account of cheating. So
well, what's a little cheat amongst friends, Sam?
What's a little cheat when I'm going to lose anyway?
It's a little cheat.
Yeah, it's funny. Neither of us picked up on it. I was like, "Yeah, I'll play blue, this," and it's like, "Wait a second, Painful Truths is black, so I need to play black." So yes, spoiler alert: this is definitely not going to go my way. I think so. I could have snapped off the balance the last turn instead of the Painful Truths, which would have taken him down to 1 Young Pyromancer, no tokens, and I have the Notion Thief. But
then you're still going to block.
Then I'm still going to block.
If he has a main phase Preordain or a threat like Jace, he either plays a threat or he plays a cantrip, or he's got a bolt. You know,
that's it. Like I'm still going to block. He plays Jace. Like I still lose that game from that. In that world, I still lose that game. And also in the process, I end up losing, I think, a land and 2 cards or something. I can't remember what it was. But as you can see, the game is very, very well and truly decided by him being on Planeswalker Tribal. I believe I just loot away that Black Lotus. I don't take the Mox. Just go up to 4 with Dak and draw 2 cards and discard Black Lotus.
Yeah, I mean Black Lotus is a cool looking card, but it doesn't really do much.
Black Lotus, all right. Here's balance. Balance does next to nothing here. Balance is absolutely terrible because your opponent has 2 Planeswalkers. All it's doing, I was laughing about how you lose 2 creatures and I lose a bunch of lands. How does this sound? And he's like, "Yep, oh gee, bro. Yeah. I'll just operate with these 2 Planeswalkers."
2 mana Forks Bolt, sacrifice 2 lands.
Yeah. Yep. I believe the only reason I was playing these was to just find out any other cards from his deck to know how he sideboarded, because I was very, very, very not winning this game. So, gain any information to see whether he's brought in a particular sideboard card that because we don't have lists. We have lists as the commentators, but when you're in this situation, how much do you want to know if your opponent has...
First game, like, looking at it from the first game, I knew Steve had lost.
Yeah.
But it's easy for us to say because we've got all the lists in front of us,
Yeah. And after that, I'm just like, I'll just show my hand anyway. I'm like, this is what I had. Yeah, pretty sure I'm not winning this game.
So game 3?
Game 3. So game 3 is me on the play, and me on the play is always a good thing.
Is anything,
right, when you're
it's
control.
good for you.
Yeah, good for me.
Does anything change
It's always a
with
good
sideboards?
thing for me. No, I don't believe I change anything on the play.
I can't imagine Steve would. Just having a quick look
Yeah.
myself, don't see much.
When you're against other decks like shops and the like, you
Steve
change.
sideboarded incorrectly. So he should.
He should change.
He should change. He
But-
should put the misstep back in. His misstep's like really, really good in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. But he's probably looking, going, why do I have this fragmentize in here?
Yeah,
you
it
know?
seems bad. Especially like if there's a troublesome artifact, you just deck. You got 3 decks, right?
True.
And there's no artifacts that are troublesome.
Yeah, I mean, that Stony Silence clearly put the fear in them. So here we go with me on the play. I'm not on 1 life. I'm thankfully on a much higher life total. Start the game on 1 life. Can we play that game? Would that work? Okay, all your fetches are off.
If you're going to do it
Force
in
of
any
Will's
format...
turned off.
Alright, I was going to say, if there's any format you can do it in Vintage.
Something like
but
10
maybe
cards in your deck are turned off. My Painful Truths, I can play it with Library of Alexandria. Oh, no, I still have to pay 1 life. So one note is that in my version of this deck, I run Wasteland as well as another colourless source. Sure, I'm greedy because I'm running 4 colours, but I find Wasteland is super well positioned in the format right now.
Wasteland is really good in the format.
Yeah. In the control mirrors, hitting their library is absolutely amazing. In the workshop mirrors, hitting a workshop early is good. In the
Paradoxical.
paradoxical, hitting Talarian is
yeah.
really good. Here's my hand. Strip Mine, Basic, Wasteland as well.
Yeah.
Ancestral Recall, and Pyroblast.
It's quite a nice hand.
And this is a Pyroblast hand as well. So
And it's a library hand, so it's not going to work out for Steve. He will get...
it's on the draw, he gets
Yeah,
one.
he will get 1
cantrip.
activation.
Yeah.
Which is very relevant.
Yeah, so I lead on Basic here because I don't want to show the Strip Mine or Wasteland. I want him to play, I want him to play something and then I Wasteland it. Then he plays a Basic and then I Strip Mine that. That's my plan,
And note, there's no reason to play Acre there. You're not really digging for anything because you're going to Wasteland here, so it's not like you're digging to find a threat or to find a counterspell. He's got Force of Will. He's just going to have to discard to hand size.
Yeah, he goes and puts the library in the bin and I'm like, do you want to draw a card? And he's like, oh, yeah, I want to draw a card. Yeah, go for it. I'm playing assuming you draw a card here, so... we're pretty friendly on the feature match area. We don't don't hold people to things like that.
And
It's
now
pretty obvious
Steve's
play.
maybe even going to get hit by Strip here, although... so, I mean, we talked about this in the other game, how, like, wasting and stripping, and we've talked about it a billion times before, wasting and stripping is really bad.
So, and specifically about wasting and stripping, when you strip them after they've drawn off the library, they have to discard at end of turn if they didn't find a Mox. So, essentially, the one activation was a loot, and I don't play strip here intentionally to bait out to see whether he's got a second source or not.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, yes, he could arguably rip a second land off the top and then play a 2-mana spell. Mm-hmm. But if he doesn't, then you know whether or not stripping's correct or not.
I did his upkeep A-call, and I have Pyroblast and I have Mental Misstep in hand, ready to counter anything basically, Force or Misstep. But he had specifically the one thing that wrecks me, which is Flusterstorm.
But I think even that's fine, because again, he couldn't cast... If he did rip that land, he still can't cast the 2-mana spell, because he's casting Flusterstorm. So
yeah,
it's fine. And then again, now that makes the strip mine really good.
Yeah, well, see, the slow roll of the Strip Mine, as you'll note, I slow rolled it and made sure that he had good mana sources. It turns out that he had no other rocks and no other land. So I'm playing knowing that and then get to strip it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, Strip Mine's obviously a lot better if you've got the backup Wasteland before that, because there's a higher likelihood. As we were saying before, like, you should only Wasteland once you've got a threat out. Sometimes you can Wasteland and just get lucky that they kept a 1-land hand. If you've got 2, if you've got the Strike Mine and the Wasteland, that chance increases because now you burn them out if they've got a 2-land hand. So they have to have a 3-mana hand or 4-mana hand.
Also,
and
you
that's
can
a lot
know
less
that
likely.
when they have library, you can know that they keep sketchy hands. And so I was like, you probably have a 1-land or 2-land library hand. Let's see if it is the case. And it was the case. Note that he hasn't drawn another land, but he drew Black Lotus. I was able to resolve the A-call with the Pyroblast backup. And here is Pyromancer. So forcing Pyromancer here is so important because once it makes 1/1/1, because he has like a removal, something to play in response to your removal spell, that 1/1/1 trades with Snapcaster Mage, and that's my one threat.
It feels kind of bad pitching this to then get Pyroblasted.
Yeah.
Do you have another Force Will?
No.
Right.
So keep in mind,
at least
I wanted to build up to the library.
At least Pyroblast's out, so now that's a Pyroblast that won't generate a 1/1 in the future.
But that was off Lotus, so the Pyroblast was probably going to be dead in hand for the rest of the game, or for much of the game.
And you're very far off. Very far off the library.
And the Pyroblast countered the Force of Will, which allows me to end of turn ACOL. No, it was during that turn. No, that was an earlier turn. I think I just pointed out this is meant to be exiled. That's what was happening. Yeah, so like I had flashback the ACOL with the Snappy earlier, but I didn't actually actively remove it into the exiled zone. So we picked up on that afterwards. So this is a Treasure Cruise. Treasure Cruise is big, obviously. Treasure Cruise exiling the entire graveyard just to draw 3 cards is huge when your opponent has no lands, but here's a land. And once that young Pyro starts getting active, it's huge. It's a really, really big problem because I need Swords to Plowshares to deal with it, and if I deal with it, then it's already made 1 or 2 tokens, and they trade with my 2/1. So, big problem. I think there was logic to me just swinging there with the Snapcaster because he probably doesn't block, and he doesn't have any way to trigger it anyway. So
but he can swing back, and he's a bit more aggro than you.
True. I probably in retrospect, I like me swinging there, but I can see what my thought was at the time, which was what you're saying, where you're like, well, here's the aggro. If I preserve my life total, this is great. But here, I do get punished. So he's got a Lightning Bolt for the Snapcaster Mage.
Does he even need to bolt the Snappy? Or just...
Well,
he might as well.
Yeah, because he gets to... His clock is faster.
You're right. He gets Pyroblast swings.
Yeah. So now, look at this. Forcing... I have to force a Lightning Bolt solely to keep a 2/1 because it changes our clock. Like that, it feels bad, but it actually changes your clock dramatically, having the 2/1 stopping the young Pyro attacking for a few turns. And I end up, look at this, immediately punished. I use the Force of Will. What do I top deck the next turn? Swords to Plowshares. I would not be Force of Willing a removal spell on my 2/1, would I? If I knew I was top decking Swords to Plowshares to answer the thing I wanted to answer.
That's true, but we've got a bit of a game here. He's hit his second land and a Merchant Scroll, surely to find ACOL. Mm-hmm. So, looking pretty good.
I think you Merchant Scroll for Dig Through Time, not ACOL. Because ACOL dies to Mental Missteps, whereas Dig Through Time dies to basically 3 less cards, 3 field cards. So,
doesn't matter anyway.
Doesn't matter.
You got Pyroblasted. Pre-end very, very strong here. Yeah, I feel like you're ahead just because you've got... I can't quite see Steve's hand. How many cards he's got?
Steve's got a lot of cards in hand.
Oh, does
so
he?
Keep in mind that because he missed land drops, it looks like he's behind, but that's because he missed land drops. But because he missed land drops, his hand's been full this time. Now he's hitting the land drops. His hand of 7 cards is gas. Whereas
apparently
mine,
not, since he's not casting spells.
It's all like interaction. So obviously he's been using those 7 cards. He doesn't have 7 cards in hand right now, but you get what I mean. So my hand is land and some other things, and I'm building up to library. So I draw a Force, but I'm on 6 cards, I think, and I just go, look, I'm just not going to...
Because you could play land and hardcast Force. I'd be tempted to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, do I play land, or do I take 1 turn off Force of Will? And I think I decide having the hardcast Force of Will is kind of equivalent to the 1 turn I'd be taking off by pitching a card to Force of Will. So... to get into the library, so playing the land is correct. That's what I ended up deciding. So, like, sure, it doesn't get me into library sooner, but it is a safer play here when he's top decking. And if he top decks Mentor, imagine the pain that I'd be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's his white source ready to go for probably something scary. So, yeah, I think I was actively thinking in my head, oh, what if you top deck Mentor? This is gonna be bad. So. Here comes, what is it, Jason Prince Prodigy? No, Azorius Renegade, Lavinia. So I believe this is the play, right? So I was going to just let it resolve, but if I let it resolve, I can't Force of Will. I can Force of Will, but I can't tap out and have Force of Will up. So I'm like, just Force of Will this. And
I think this is fine. Like, obviously, really want to get into library, but like, We're in the same position a few turns later. Oh,
Yeah.
turn
So this
2.
is turn 2. That now I remember why I force a build that. It's because this is turn 2 of turns, and if I don't counter it, there is a line in which I can lose. Imagine if he top decks Mentor Time Walk, and ends up going on some kind of crazy Time Walk spree. So here on turn 2 of turns, I didn't want to just lose out of nowhere, so I went, okay, look, I'm just going to force a will that, and then I'm going to do a Yawgmoth's Will. This is a really bad Yawgmoth's Will, by the way. Check it out. Like, what am I going to get?
You get a Preordain.
I get land, Preordain,
maybe a Treasure Cruise. Maybe a Snap, but not all of them, because you have to discard them pitch them to Delve.
Like, if we weren't in turns, I'd be looking to play a Snap, start attacking with a Snapcaster mate, and like find some kind of line.
I think you'd probably just wait. You just wait and get to
for sure
library
for sure. So, but because we're in turns, I'm like, okay.
Because if Steve plays a threat, you can just Yawgmoth's Swords it, Preordain, and you're sort of fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And if he doesn't play a threat, you just eventually library. So you're sort of a bit deterministic, really.
Well, knowing that his Lotus is gone, he can't go Mentor, Lotus, Time Walk, and Preordain, and in the Time Walk turn just kill me, because that's what I'm afraid of. But I know Lotus is gone, so now that I counted the Azorius Renegade, there's very few things I lose to, but I can try and win, and this is what I'm trying to do. Try to dig heaps, try to find Monastery Mentor, and then try to have my own Mentor Time Walk win in turns.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's probably not going to.
He's in 17 live.
We do what we got to do.
We saw how slow you were closing a game in the first match.
That was hard. And
maybe it's one issue with your deck. It seems to be really well built, but closing games might be tough.
Yeah, that can happen. Now, note here that I can no longer Treasure Cruise because, and this was the hard ask, right? So, because everything's being exiled from the graveyard, that was the critical decision I had to make, which was, do I just cast Treasure Cruise and it costs 2 mana and I only have 1 mana up? Or do I cast Preordain, see the same number of cards as Treasure Cruise but don't draw them all,
you
but
do
have
see the
2
same
mana
number.
available?
Because you can't...
2 mana is really big here.
The text on Yawgmoth... Yeah, the text on Yawgmoth says everything gets exiled, so you can't even fetch land to add to the bin, so it just goes straight to exile. So I think that's probably draw City there with the force on Mentor. Yeah. To be fair to you, you did actually maybe have an out with Mentor, right?
We'll see, what I was building up in my hand was a bunch of Moxen. So the plan was, as you could see from that line, was to play the Mentor, trigger it with the Pearl, go to my next turn, and attempt to win and, cast Time Walk or something, and Swords to Plowshares my own guy. But I end up drawing a land as the last draw of the game. So even if that wasn't forced, I wouldn't have won. But that you could see the line I was trying to engineer there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a decent line. Not the ideal line if you had infinite time. But
yeah. So
got to do what you got to do.
That's it. That brings us to the end of round 3. There is one more round, the final round. Both Steve and I are undefeated because we are on 2-0-1, and our only draws are to each other. So the final round will decide which one of us reigns supreme and whether Steamroll Steve can steamroll the tournament.
See you on the next one, guys. Final round.